So you might ask yourself the question, why do I need one? Why do I need to spend going on $400 for another tool? And before I answer that question, if there are any non-woodturners in the audience, like wives or girlfriends or people that have designs on your hobby money, it'd be a good time for them to go check the toilet or unload the dishwasher or whatever. And if they're out of earshot, the answer to the question is you really don't need one. You can make all the bowls you want out of wood. You're fortunate to live in a wooded area, so you get all the wood you want. But you can do some things with a coring system you can't do otherwise. For one, you can get more than one bowl out of a single chunk of wood. And you can do some, it's a little more flexible. You can do a little bit more with the bowl shape than with the one-way system. So looking ahead to, if you want to core something, what do you need to think about? Primarily, you want to use wet wood. I bought my system early on with the idea of turning a piece of koa, which is fairly dear and hard to come by. But I didn't have wet koa, I had dry koa, so I practiced on some other dry wood and found out, at least as a beginner, it doesn't work very well with dry, hard wood. Whereas wet wood kind of cuts like butter, or by comparison it does, and it's much easier to core. The typical wood selections are what we have around here: maple, cherry, walnut. Pine is not generally recommended for turning because it's resinous and a little soft and splintery. You do need a fairly robust lathe, at least 1.5 horsepower, which is about what mine is. I have a Nova. More horsepower is better because it won't tend to stall out on you. And then so you want to start by shaping the blank to match the outside approximately to your cutter shape. And something I thought I discovered for myself, and it's shown in the picture here, you can actually slice a piece off the top and make a platter if your blank is fairly deep. So I'll demonstrate the setup. One is you need a fairly robust chuck, because one, it's a scraping process, and it can be a little scary sometimes if you get catches. So follow your manufacturer's recommendations on chuck. Tonight I'm using a big one-way. I talked about the shape of the piece, and the tool gate height needs to be right at dead center or just a hair higher, because as the cutting tool, which is shown here, progresses into the blank, it will actually bend downward a little bit. So the gate width, pretty much as I said, a tool rest, you feed the shape tool through 2 of the pegs, and as you turn, you have a downward force on your cutter and an upward force on the handle. And this little bar across the back serves to keep the handle from raising up and makes it a lot less strenuous on your arm to hold it. You actually want to hold it up against the bar. And here's a picture over here showing the cutter in about the right position, fairly close to the work, ready to enter the wood where the arc is drawn. So your preps for coring, you need to have a way to mount the cored pieces once you cut them out. So this is one way to do it, is prepare the face and cut a recess or a mortise in it, suitable for the chuck you want to use. Generally, you would core out the bigger piece first rather than cutting out a little piece and cutting progressively larger cores. At least that's the way I do it. You core the large piece, you turn it around, you cut a tenon on the back, mount it with the tenon, and then core another piece, and keep going until you run out of wood. So as I say, this method will require 2 chucks, a nice large robust chuck for holding the initial big blank, and then a smaller chuck for holding the smaller cored pieces. So I kind of covered that. The layout. I have about a 14-inch blank shown here and mounted on the lathe for the knife. I generally only try to get 2 or 3 pieces out of it. Since I'm working with really wet wood, I want to leave plenty of wall thickness for warping, say 10% of the diameter. And I say a little more because starting out, you're not going to be a real expert. And you can always cut off the excess and make it 10%. Whereas if you make a mistake in your coring and get it a little too thin in one spot, you may end up with a funnel. And I'm showing coring just a regular bowl, not a natural edge. If you can do natural edge bowls with this process, and if you do, recommend kind of starting green for your first cut. So some hints about using the tool. Cutters are scrapers, and they're prone to catches if you get too aggressive. And the thing I learned that really was the biggest, I guess, the key to doing good coring is meter your feed rate. If you go in too quickly, it's going to grab and stall like any cutter, like any scraper will. And if you don't go in at all, of course, you're not scraping anything off beside the sawdust. If you do tend to stall, then back off a little bit, let the motor catch up. Make a curve about 1.5 times the cutter's width, and I'll show you how to do that. Especially do not allow chips to clog. Withdraw your cutter if you need to clear it. If they do clog, sometimes it can really jam up, and if you ever drilled a hole with a drill and not cleared the drill chip, and had a drill get stuck in a piece of work, you'll know what I mean. Also, kind of monitor the depth of the cut, how far in your cutter is going, so you know enough to pull out the cutter just before you sever the core. Most of the time, not much bad will happen, but if you cut through the last ligament holding the core, everything is spinning, it can go bouncing. So this is a view of what my lathe looks like with just a dummy plank on it. I can say it's an Nova 1624, and I backfitted it with a variable speed drive. It's bench mounted. That's about that. I'll talk about this a little later if we have extra time. And this is the setup for the video. I'm now looking at the laptop, which is on a board clamped to my bandsaw. And then I have the camera we'll be using mounted on a homemade camera mount suspended from the ceiling. It'll hold an iPhone 7, which is maybe 3 to 5 years old about now, but it does a good job. So if you can talk amongst yourselves till I get the iPhone set up, then we'll proceed. If there's any questions, I'll try to answer them while I'm setting up the iPhone.
I went ahead and unmuted everybody while Chuck does that.
Okay.
So
I tried coring with the McNaughton system. Well, I've cored probably 6 or 7 bowls, and I can get the first core out pretty nicely. Of course, it saves a lot of wood chips on the floor, but I have a hard time getting repeated smaller and smaller bowls. They just, I get the first one, and then it looks like there's not enough left to make another one. Am I making the curve too wide?
Maybe. How big a blank are you starting with?
Yeah, about 12 inches.
Oh, well, you should, probably be able to get 3 out of that.
Do you change your cutter as you go to smaller in diameter?
Yes.
Maybe I ought to try that, huh?
Hey, Chuck, Phil Duffy. Have you ever tried just going from the inside to the outside?
I haven't, but it is an equally valid method to do it.
No, that's another thing.
That's the only way I've done it. I haven't never done it the other way, the way you describe. I've always gone from the inside to the out. So it's easy to estimate what your final product development is going to look like.
Which system do you use, Phil?
McNaughton.
Okay.
Hold on, folks. I've muted the wrong Chuck.
I only use the original Chuck to see.
Yeah. No, well, I muted the wrong Chuck. Hey, look, Dan's here. Chuck, can you unmute your laptop? I was trying to mute your iPhone for you, and I muted the wrong one.
Boy,
All
there's,
right,
There
unmuted.
you go. Sorry about that.
that's a beady set of eyes looking through that camera.
Smile, you're on candid camera.
Can you spotlight my iPhone? I'm
Yes,
looking at the blank now.
There you go. Is that what you want?
Yeah.
Perfect. All right.
I thought that's what I wanted. Maybe that we do. I was trying to get it to telephoto a little bit, but. All right, so there we are. All right, that looks pretty good for light and everything.
Yep. And Chuck, I think your microphone is falling under your collar, and it makes it a little bit muffled when you're talking sometimes.
All right, how's that?
I think that's better.
Okay, all right. Okay, so we'll put on the safety glasses. Put on the address. And what I'm going to do first is cut a recess for rounding with the chuck. And I moved some stuff around and I forgot where to put it. Okay, so this is set. There we go. The dividers are set for my 100 millimeter Nova jaws. All right. So I don't know if you can see this well or not, but I made myself a little chart, 100 millimeter, 50 millimeter, pin jaws, power grip. And so the lines represent the range of the chuck jaws. So I set this to be just a little larger than the minimum for the recess.
I like that.
I fiddled around with all kinds of different gauges over the years to judge recesses and tenons. And I've never had much success with any of the gauges. But I like that because it shows you exactly what you're dealing with.
And Chuck, I'm leaving everybody unmuted in case there's questions during the middle of this, right?
Okay.
Wow, not kidding. Here we go.
Chuck, I think we've lost you, at least your audio anyways. Can you hear us?
What it looks like he's doing is a
Ladder.
well, he's cutting a flat plate off like you would cut with a parting tool.
Sure it is.
Yeah, he shared this with me that he did a practice run of this, and what he's doing is he's taking the top layer off like he talked about to make a platter, and he's just going back and forth to give it just a wide curve so he has plenty of room to bring the tool in, and he's using a straight cutter for this cut, and like you said, Ron, it's just a parting tool essentially, but it's the same diamond tip or pointed tip, and he's just gradually going back and forth, making a wide curve to clear the chips out, and so yeah, he's gonna take a platter off the top, and that's why he put that recess in the top piece so he can then turn it around and grab it and make a very shallow platter out of it.
All right, now Chuck is guesstimating the depth of his cut there. He's not quite there yet. I think he wants to go just a bit deeper before I'm going to guess that he's going to snap that off, not cut all the way through. That's just a guess.
Probably a good one.
And I think I've used the McNaughton system not very well. I've had difficulties with it. I think I'm learning a few things here tonight. But you can tell by the sound of things if he's pretty close to the core.
Does your McNaughton bog down your lathe?
But yeah, like Chuck said, you can't be too aggressive with it. Because it will bog down. I have a Nova DVR similar to his, and it will certainly bog it down.
Well, I've got a stubby that's 3 horsepower and it bogs it down.
Well, then I'm not shocked that my 1.5 it gets bogged down.
I have a Powermatic old American made, and what I've done is loosen the belt, the drive belt, so that there is some ability of the lathe to adjust to the pressures.
Okay.
And I found that to be useful.
The other thing I found is that amazingly, if you keep the tip sharp, you cut quicker and easier. It's
Yes.
complete revelation to me.
And that is one of the difficulties I've had. And there you go. He snapped it off. And now it's got a platter. That's looks like maple to me. Again, just a guess.
Yeah, it looks like it.
Yeah. Well, now we're down to a small bowl.
Still pretty fair size. Not sure, but he may be able to get 3 out of that. Small, medium, large.
All right.
If you ever watched,
let's see.
oh, what's his name?
I think he
You
looked
thinking of
at
Mike
the-
Mahoney?
Yeah, thank you. He could make. Just a guess, but I've seen him make 10 or 12 out of something that size.
Yeah, I don't know how to do it. He's got to have a clean cutter.
Truly amazing.
Okay, I lost audio there for a while. I'm back on. Any questions so far?
What's the wood?
This is beech. It's actually a limb from about 100-year-old beech tree.
Wow.
And the limb was about 20 inches in diameter where I started cutting pieces. So it came down maybe 2 weeks ago, and I collected this last Tuesday. So this is pretty close to the pith. We've got some splits in here, which I can patch just fine, but I think it'll make a very pretty platter when we're done. So I won't do it now, but what you do is mount this on the chuck, turn it around, and then you can cut a tenon or whatever your preferred mount is for the back in order to finish it. Okay?
Yeah. Chuck, have you ever turned beech before?
Yeah, I have. As it happened here in Williamsburg back in like February or March, the 100-year-old beech tree came down in Midtown Williamsburg, and the lady put a notice in the paper that anybody who wanted wood come by and get it. Well, it had fallen over in a ravine, and on the side of the ravine, the trunk of the tree was about 4 feet in diameter.
Wow.
And you couldn't go down into the ravine because it was steep to get to the smaller pieces. So a couple of woodturners and I came by and gnawed chunks out of the middle of that 4-foot diameter. And this is actually one of the pieces that I cored back when, and a couple of smaller bowls out of it. And I forgot to bring it down to show off, but the middle piece I did finish and is upstairs. If my wife wants to bring it down, I can show it later.
Oh, is that the one with the ripples?
Yeah.
I'll bring it down.
Okay. So now we'll switch to another cutter and we'll take another piece out of this one.
Oh, you mean a bowl piece, bowl blank?
Yeah. Yeah, a bowl piece. One big advantage to this system is you end up with a lot less chips. And if you made one bowl out of this, you'd get probably 3 or 4 garbage bags full of chips. So just to lay out sort of what the bowl is going to look like, you can lay your cutter on the top, and that gives a better view of the camera. Sort of get an idea of how you want to steer the cutter. Now, I have a tenon cut in the bottom, which you can't see, so you have to allow for the depth of the tenon in planning it so you don't cut it too thin in the bottom. But I think about like that, and you can adjust your angle sort of to suit.
Is that the McNaughton large?
This is the standard, the middle one.
Yes, okay.
Would you have?
So that's about where I'm going to try to cut the kerf.
How do you get the tenons cut in the bowls that you core out?
I'm not sure I understand.
Well, you have a tenon on that piece and you're going to core out a piece from that. Now, the inside piece that you cut out is going to be in the shape of a bowl, but it won't have a tenon on the bottom.
Right. Yeah. So what I need to do before I core it would be to cut a recess here for the chuck.
Ah, okay.
So that's kind of a reminder. Thank you for reminding me. I'll do that now. There is a fallback position. If you forget to do that, you can go ahead and core it, and then you have no way of grabbing it. But you can turn it around and stick it in the hole it just came out of, and it's round enough you can bring up your tailstock and hold it in the approximate center and then cut a tenon.
Or you could put a small faceplate on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So nobody asked, but I'm turning at about 750.
What's it doing? No, what speed?
Did he say?
Yes, but I missed it. I brought you the wallet and the other one. Open up on the screen. There's one under my arm.
Oh. Yeah, my helper just arrived. We'll do a quick show and tell.
Where's the camera? Oh.
This is the middle-sized cord piece, beach. It has a little quasi burl on the top side, and it's finished with wipe-on poly. It's maybe 8-9 inches in diameter. And here's some walnut that I also did early. These are slices off the top to make a platter and a shallow dish.
In the bowl.
Oh, and then here's one of the bowls. I think there's even a bigger. Now this is the biggest piece. So they kind of went together like this. And then the shallow platter was the top piece. Sort of like that, if you can tell what I'm doing here.
Tell them this is true love because it's pouring rain now.
Oh.
I have to go.
My wife says she just came down in the pouring rain to bring those down. So yay, wives.
But protect the bowls by all means.
Oh, she did. She had them inside of her jacket.
Lost the audio.
Have to quiet and leave again.
That's one of the tough parts, is allowing those chips to clear. I've had to go in and dig them out from time to time. He's got a lathe that has an automatic shut off if it bogs down too bad.
He's actually done that a whole lot smoother than I'm able to.
I was thinking the same thing. But this is enough to make me go back to it and try it again.
Yeah, my McNaughton doesn't have that T-bar across. It has a U-shaped capture ring,
Okay.
and I'm not pleased with it.
Yeah, I've got an old system too, possibly, I don't know, 10 years old. And how do you sharpen the tip? It's the sides, not the flat top, correct?
I do. I use a plate set at a certain angle against a CBN wheel.
Not a hung. Okay.
I use a rubber mallet.
Yeah, that hurts the hand. I don't know if he's changing. Yeah, I think he's changing cutters to get closer to the core. A little more of an acute bend. You have to widen the cut as he goes.
Ooh,
Been there.
Oh, yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yep, digging out the shape.
Well, I don't feel so bad now. Ow.
Hmm.
You need a cuckoo clock too. I like that T-bar system he's got on the.
Yeah, I do too. I don't, like I said, my U-shaped capture ring is not all that handy.
Not for me either.
There it comes.
All right.
Nice.
He turned the tenon on it right away.
That's what I was noticing. Like he,
It's like he knew what he's doing.
yeah.
Different size cutter.
Yeah. We changed the angle or that.
Yeah.
But he could put the chuck in. I think that's the recess he's got on the top end. He could expand the chuck into that.
Yeah.
That was step one. I guess another option might be a worm. I'm not sure.
Chuck,
Yeah.
there you are. Hey, we lost audio again. Bill and
Yeah.
Bill's been giving some good commentary though, and Ron has been helping.
Okay. Yeah, I could kind of hear tiny little voices in the background, but I was talking. I kind of had the feeling that maybe I'd lost audio again. I don't know why that's been happening, but
Yeah,
anyway.
some of us, Chuck, have had some experiences with the McNaughton system. Not all of it great. So we're learning stuff today. Thank you.
Okay, good. Yeah, my early experiences weren't great either, but every year or two I get it out and try it again. And I watched a couple of demos from a guy in Hawaii who was an expert at it and gets 7 or 8 bowls out of a 20 inch length.
Chuck, was he on YouTube?
He may be. His name is Andy Cole.
Okay.
He's on the board of directors now for AAW. He's an excellent teacher, really all-around good guy, loves to talk, does a great demo. So I watched him a couple of times and asked him, I noticed he had his thumb on the cutter as it was going through the gate. And I said, what's that for? And he says, oh, that's how I meter the cut. And that was the aha moment for me.
I've watched Mike Mahoney do it too, and was amazed that he can get 8 or 10 bowls out of a blank that size. And like in typical Mike Mahoney style, he makes it look a whole lot easier.
Yeah, yeah. Well, having a little more robust lathe would probably help. You do want to have your cutters fairly sharp. You know, they sharpen them like you do any scraper. So any questions?
Do you sharpen on a CBN wheel, Chuck?
Yes.
Okay.
How fast were you turning? We missed that.
750. But at least that's what the dial says. I don't know whether it's accurate or not.
It looks close to that.
If you guys haven't tried a CBN wheel, they are a dramatic improvement in sharpening capability.
Huge difference.
Yeah, that was the best money I ever spent on the woodturning too.
It was.
So I have a CBN 180 grit and I think it's a 120 grit white wheel.
That's what I do too.
They stay flat. They don't lose their diameter like the what is not carborundum? What am I thinking here?
Oh, white wheel or
White
Yeah.
silicone.
silicone oxide.
Yeah,
They're pricey, but they last a long time and well worth it in my humble opinion.
yeah, yeah, and it's perfect for sharpening these cutters because you know there's not a lot of metal on them, and you don't want to take off any more than you have to when you sharpen it. So
Did you
just
say
a wee
what?
touch on the edge.
Did you say 180 grit for those cutters?
180 grit on my CBN wheel.
Yeah.
320 works even better.
Ah.
I didn't know they made.
So any questions about the coring or anything you want to see over, or sorry, I kept cutting out on the commentary as I went.
We got it, Chuck. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah. Any questions?
Well, if you like, I'll do a minute and a half on the video setup.
Do we get another bowl out of that?
Yeah, I can probably get one more shallow one. It would be pretty shallow. But I think since I got so many to finish now, I'll just hollow this out and leave it as is. So it's still 3 pieces out of one, which
Are you doing anything to prevent the cracking while it dries?
when I brought it home, I anchor sealed the ends and I rounded it up, shaped it a couple of days ago to be ready for tonight. I kept it wrapped up with a plastic bag so it wouldn't dry out.
So anything that you're going to turn further, are you either going to anchor seal or wrap up till you get to it?
I'll probably just bag these tonight and then finish them tomorrow.
Yeah.
And then what I do is put them in a paper bag and throw them in a crawl space for a couple months.
There you go.
May I tell you guys an interesting story?
Sure.
This is Barbara, and I love the McNaughton system, and I got it in the 90s. And I was always annoyed that there weren't good instructions with this system. So I figured out a way to figure out the angles, and I wrote a paper called Conquering McNaughton. And I took it to the 99 symposium in Charlotte, North Carolina, where I met him. And when we met, he looked at me and he laughed and he said, "Oh man, I thought you were some angry woman conquering McNaughton." and
well, you were.
Just
I
mug
was
'em?
angry that he didn't have good instruction on it, but now that's on his website, the way I figured out how to figure out the angles. I thought you'd just like to know that story.
Yeah.
You're gonna have to look that up, Barbara. That's great.
Yeah,
Thanks.
look at his website. You'll find it.
All right. I didn't know he had a website, but it stands for reasons.
Yeah, he does. Yeah. Great demo, by the way.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
So on the video setup, probably the most important thing is to have a strong Wi-Fi signal. And the other thing I want to say is I don't have any aspirations of being a YouTube sensation or doing demos for money or doing this very often. So I didn't want to spend a lot of money on an elaborate setup, which it's very easy to do. So basically this was done with an old, fairly deep laptop. And am I still talking?
Yes.
Yeah, we hear
Okay.
you.
I hear a slight echo. And my iPhone 7. So you log on to your Wi-Fi onto Zoom using the same email address with both devices. And I bought a Wi-Fi extender, so my Wi-Fi signal gets down here pretty good. And if you can see that, you can see that better now.
Yeah.
So this is a $12 iPhone mount, which Jared told me about. It has a quarter 20 thread screw that matches with what your cameras do and your camera tripods. And just to gild the lily, I spent another $6 and bought a ball mount, which also has a quarter 20 thread. And then I made the camera mount out of a piece of scrap plastic pipe and turned a mount here that I could screw to the ceiling, threaded it with a quarter 20 screw and put a nut there to lock it in place. And I went back later and put this on the lathe and turned the groove for the set screw to fit into.
I like it. That's classy.
And then this is a quarter 20 piece of scrap threaded rod with a couple of nuts on it to hold it in place. So that's the basic setup. If you got a good Wi-Fi signal, you can do a demo from your shop.
Very nice.
The other thing, audio and video is pretty processor intensive. So it sucks the juice out of your iPhone and it heats it up. Jared and I were doing a practice about a month ago, and the phone overheated and ran out of juice about the same time. So I'm going to turn it off now and go back to my laptop. So that's it. I'm happy to talk longer, answer any more questions, listen to stories, whatever.
Thanks, Chuck.
Excellent demo, Chuck. Thank you for doing that.
Good
Very
show.
good.
Did a
Okay,
great
happy
job.
to do it.
Great job.
Thank you.
Thank
Something that and something that I learned, or Chuck and I, as we were working out the details of the practice and setting up. One of the things that we lessons learned was when you use your iPhone, it's tempting to try and use the front, like the selfie view, but the better camera is always on the back. So if you use Zoom as your preview window, you can see what the camera sees. So like he has Zoom on his laptop, and then he's using his iPhone as the camera. Like I said, the better camera is on the back, but he can't see what it's showing because it's sitting in the ceiling. But we use the Zoom on the laptop as the preview camera, so the preview of what the camera was. So it's a little bit easier to kind of see what the angles looks like when you set it up.
Yeah,
Jared,
unfortunately, I had a lot of glare on my screen, so I couldn't really see what you guys were seeing, although the intent was to be able to monitor what I was doing using the laptop.
Jared, this is Bruce. Would it be a better situation to try to make a video first offline and then show that rather than try to do the demonstration online? And can you still talk over that video?
You can do that's what we did last time. It's just a matter of what you want to get involved with. If you do the video in advance, usually it's going to involve some editing, and sometimes that's kind of a barrier to entry for folks. But yeah, that's definitely an option. It's just a matter of figuring out what you feel comfortable doing.
May I say something?
Absolutely.
I'm going to be doing an interactive video on Trent Bosch's platform on Monday. And the way I've set it up is to embed my PowerPoint presentations with videos that I've shown. So I have the camera angle the way I want it to be, and it seems to work very smoothly.
And Barbara, having seen your YouTube videos, you're doing a great job.
Absolutely.
Oh, thank you.
Super.
I'm a subscriber.
Oh, thank you so much. That's sweet. I thought I retired, you know.
Hey, Bruce, I see you're in your shop. Do you have the new piece that you just did? You willing to show it?
I'll do it next time.
Okay.
And I'm not in my shop. That's my virtual shop.
Oh, okay. Sort of like my island shop. Okay.
You got it.
I was going to say, you've got good resolution jumping from your shop back to the house.
What I want to know is how he gets the palm tree to wave.
Let's see. Somebody showed me that one day.
It's a video background. You can use
You
video.
can flip it to the other side somehow. I've forgotten how to do that. You can put the palm tree on the other side.
Yeah, that's
on vacation.
we have such poor Wi-Fi out here in Rockville. That's why I've had to figure out how to do the video ahead of time.
Right. To do live demo, Chuck is absolutely right. You need a good strong Wi-Fi signal. So many things, and even better if you have a hard line. That's really going to be your strongest option. But if you Wi-Fi is there's so many things that play into the conversation that kind of that can cause problems. For instance, audio issues and internet connect. The storms that are going through the area can also interfere with the internet. So as many variables as you can limit, the better off you are. if you're willing to do the video editing, it certainly is the cleanest, you know, because you can set your angles, you can set everything up ahead of time, just and practice and do it a couple times. If you didn't like what your shot was, you can certainly kind of you know, shoot it again. But for a live option, I really appreciated Chuck's little mount that he put above his ceiling, put in a ceiling. That overhead view, I have a better appreciation of why Stan has been so adamant that overhead view from the ceiling in that Woodcraft. I hadn't had that perspective until this demo, and it really makes a lot of sense. So we'll be working on that too. But you know, Chuck did a really good job with his iPhone and the setup that he's got, and I just appreciate what he put into it. And really, it's something that anybody can do, and I'm happy to work with folks. If you want to try this, I'm happy to test with you and give you feedback, and try and help, you know, you under.
Yeah, if I
work
could
out your
chime in
details.
for a second. Yeah, Jared was a peach to work with. It really isn't that hard. Somebody has something they want to share. I think it's a great way to foster club learning.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Jared's the man. Yeah.
Happy to help.
Great presentation.
Thank you.
Yep, very good.
Thank you, Chuck. Thanks, Chuck.
Thank you, Chuck. Thank you,
All
Jared.
right.
Barbara.
Thank you, Jared.
No problem.
Thank you.
Good night, John Boy.
Good night, Mary Ellen.
Nice looking son you got there, Jared.
Thank you.
Yeah.
He made a cameo appearance earlier.
You got the evening. You're being daddy tonight, huh?
Yeah, well, he got a little fussy, so I had to give Mom a break for a second. But yeah, no, he's awesome.
Right. All right, unless there's more, Jared, you got the controls.
All right, I'm gonna shut it down, y'all. Thanks so much.
Okay, good night.
All right.
Good
Yeah,
night,
good night,
everybody.
all.
Bye.